So come on, irregardless, is it actually a word? As a keen viewer of this scripted word vomit that I throw at you every week, well, sometimes not every week, but, sometimes every week, you'll know that I've touched on this before. You'll know that I haven't really gone totally all the way with this particular idea, though. I sort of said some things about whether I thought it was a word and whether it's actually in the dictionary or not, but what I really want to do this week is actually go testicles deep on this one and actually go all the way and do all of the explaining. So, are you ready? Should I have said testicles deep? I mean, I've said it now, and I quite enjoyed saying it. Also, the word testicle is quite funny, and if you're eating an avocado, then that avocado means testicle in Nahuatl, so you're eating a testicle. Anyway, we can break up irregardless into 4 parts. We'll start with the ir little bit, so that's ir, which is a variation of in, which is an old Latin word meaning not. Examples of ir at the beginning of words, it does sound weird when I say that, ir at the beginning of words are irresistible and irresponsible and some others that I've written down that I can't remember right now. The second part of the word is re, and in this case it means again. So in this case it's used as an intensifier to intensify the core verb in irregardless, which is to guard. So you are to regard, to look again. Guard comes from Middle French and then it goes right back to Old French, and even in that form has pretty much had the same meaning for that whole time. So even today it has the same meaning in English. So in those old dialects it meant to keep or to preserve, but it also meant to protect or maintain. That led to the sense of guardian or warden or keeper, which is, well, all of those other senses and these ones that I've just said basically means that it's kept its meaning all the way through. We use all of those meanings today for the word guard. And that leads us to the last bit, the less bit. Most of you will know that less is a relative term and it sort of means, well, less of, so not as much of, smaller, or in some senses and in a different sense, fewer. Although don't mix those two up because people will get very angry at you, probably in Waitrose. Someone who is senseless, for instance, has really no sense at all. And in another sense, after I've drunk some of my tea, I now have less tea. Which is, no one's going to be happy about that, are they? I'm not happy about that. I think I might make a cup of tea now, just in case. As mentioned earlier though, I don't have fewer tea. That would be, well, unless I have fewer tea leaves. But that's, again, something else for another time. Let's not get those two mixed up. So to sum it all up, irregardless means not to not look again, which is not to not look again. Yeah, there you go. A double negative. And in fact, makes very, very little sense indeed. Which is why people get quite irritated by it. So let's try and pull that apart, shall we? Shall we start with the proper word, which is regardless, the one that kind of everyone accepts? Now, the definition of regardless is to do something without consideration. I might say something like, some people still believe that the Earth is flat, despite huge amounts of evidence, thinking, physics, provable observation. I mean, you name it. Regardless, they think the Earth is flat. I might also say that I continue to enjoy too many beers of a Friday night, regardless of the amount of times that I mortally embarrass myself in front of strangers and friends alike. But if I say something is irregardless of consequences, then I'm putting a double negative in there, and that, my little fluffy kittens, doesn't really sit well, does it? But here's the thing. Double negatives exist in, well, colloquialisms and proper ways in languages all over the world, including English. When Michael Philip Jagger sung that he couldn't get no satisfaction, we all understood that he was quite lacking in satisfaction. The double negative in this instance becomes an intensifier. You probably view double negatives are often viewed as non-standard sentence constructions, but actually they do even have a name. So apart from just being called double negatives, they're called negative concords. Concords. The word concord coming from French here, meaning agreement. So we sort of agree that there's a double negative in there, but we don't really highlight it because we understand each other anyway. And as I said earlier, negative concords, they exist in languages all over the world from all sorts of different language families. So they exist in Slavic languages, they exist in Germanic languages, they exist in the Celtic languages, so Welsh, they exist in Japanese as well, which is not a family of languages, but I mean, there are dialects in it, but you get the point. Most people speak at least 2 dialects within their mother tongue, so you speak something which is localized to your culture within English, for instance. So for me, that would be West Country, and there would be certain grammatical anomalies, you might say, within that. Or someone who lives down the road in St Paul's here in Bristol, they might speak an Afro-Caribbean dialect of English. But also you would speak another dialect of English, which would be a more correct view. So that one would be one that you would use in professional settings or academic settings or formal settings. I'd recommend reading the essay Authority and American Usage by David Foster Wallace for an exhaustive argument on how all of this works in practical terms. So, double negatives are quite common, it appears, and most of us use them as either intensifiers or part of our local dialects, or sometimes as part of our formal language. We also use this type of non-standard language in comedy, mostly actually, so if you pay quite close attention to your favourite comedian or sitcom, you'll find double negatives all over the place. The whole point of them being is that because they are non-standard, you don't kind of expect them, and then when they're used in a formal setting, that's the joke. Poetry uses the same mechanism to illustrate lyricism or beauty, and prose uses the mechanism often to demonstrate character. In short, double negatives are everywhere. So why pick on irregardless? I think it happens when someone says irregardless that we sort of feel that someone was grasping for something serious to say something profound, and they sort of fell over at the last hurdle. When someone uses that word in earnest, I should say it's quite funny if you use it. I mean, you can use it in an ironic way, and then actually that can be quite funny. But if someone uses it in earnest, we suspect that person to be a fake, that they are sort of taking a shortcut, and by proxy, we then are suspicious of that word. There's a suspicion by people who, I don't know, have done the reading, done the thinking, done the work in grammar, maybe got a degree in it, or maybe even were just really good at it at school and take pride at it in work or professional settings, that people who say things like irregardless have somehow taken a shortcut. But then, that's how language is formed. It might even find itself standardised into our common tongue. Anyway, next week I'm going to release a short story called Joris Bonson. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you're well. Take care of yourselves.